Coach Craig Sports. This is the USFL DFS video for week number 9. So in today's video, we'll be going through recap of last week, kind of going over through some of the snap counts. Was able to get through every game this week since there was a replay for every game that I had access to. So I went through, charted those all myself. Don't think there's anybody else out there in the business still doing USFL snap. So you're coming to the one-stop shop essentially for that. We'll go over, percentage of pass attempts, percentage of carries, percentage of target share, all that good stuff from week number 8. Then we'll take a look over at my sheet for week number 9, talk about where I would play guys, whether it be GPP, cash, GPP paydown options, contrarian options, everything else like that. And then a little bit if I'd be overweight or underweight to the field on certain players. But without further ado, we'll get started with the week 8 notes. So we're starting off with Birmingham, as we always do. Alex Magoo played 100% of the snaps, had 100% of the pass attempts. He had 35 in total, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, excuse me. So he was really, really good once again. Obviously, he's been arguably the best quarterback in the USFL the whole season. And then he had 24% of the carries with 5 in total. CJ Maribel still led the way in the backfield, 82% of snaps, 52% of the carries with 11 in total. And then he did have a 30% target share with 7 total targets. And I don't believe he had a touchdown. I think that's from the week before still. So I don't think I got rid of that part. But behind him, we had Ricky Person Jr. was a little bit more involved in week number 8. 19% of snaps, 24% of carries with 5 in total. He had 1 target out of the backfield, 43% target share. Zaquandre White was inactive again for week number 8. In terms of the receivers, Davion Davis had 77% of snaps, 23% target share with 8 total targets. He did have 1 receiving touchdown and was kind of back to his good ways once again, which is kind of a good thing to see since he's been down for about 3 or 4 weeks where he just hasn't been doing as much. So he's definitely in play as a GPP option once again this week. Then Deion Kane played 82% of snaps, 20% target share with 7 total targets, excuse me. So that's probably the best week he's had from an offensive perspective. Obviously, he had the 2 kick return touchdowns earlier this season. Adrian Hardy operating as the wide receiver 3, 53% of snaps, 11% target share with 4 total targets. Myron Mitchell had 27% of snaps, 1 target for a 3% target share. And then Michael Darius came in occasionally at times for 15% of the snaps, but did not have a single target. And then we had Austin Watkins and Josh Johnson both inactive for week number 8. So not too much to say from the wide receiver standpoint. You still got Davion Davis, Deion Kane being the top 2 options, Adrian Hardy being the 3, and then kind of mixing in Myron Mitchell and Michael Darius at this point in time. Does not look like anything majorly changing for Birmingham this week. Then at tight end, we had Dave Sternberger play 94% of snaps. He had a 14% target share, 5 targets in total. He had 1 receiving touchdown. And Thaddeus Moss played 13% of snaps. He had 1 target for a 3% target share. And LaMichael Petaway, 35% of snaps, a 6% target share with 2 total targets. And he did have a receiving touchdown. They used him a little bit more this past week. For whatever reason, he was in there a lot more on sets with 2 tight end sets and everything else like that, splitting them out wide. So it would be interesting to see if that's a trend that does continue moving forward. Moving down to Houston Gamblers, Kenji Bahari had 95% of the snaps and 95% of the pass attempts, 20 in total. He had 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. He had 6 carries on the ground for 27% carry share, which was nice to see since he's coming back from that ankle injury. Was a little bit more mobile in week number 8. Montel Kozart behind him had 5% of snaps. He had 1 pass attempt for 5% as well. So he was in there for like 2 plays in total. They just wanted to mix him in, apparently. So that was kind of interesting to see. Mark Thompson still lead running back for them, 84% of snaps, 64% of the carries, 14 in total, and he had 2 rushing touchdowns once again. 1 target out of the backfield for a 5% target share. And then this week it was Aaron Shamklin behind him as the backup running back, 16% of snaps, 9% of carries with 2 in total, and then 1 target out of the backfield for a 5% target share. Shamari Jones was active, but not see a single snap on offense. Moving down to the receivers, it was kind of interesting for them this week. So Justin Hall had 67% of snaps, 16% target share with 3 targets. So he's kind of been their lead guy for most of the season, but, still just that slot player for them. They rotated Chike Kism and Taylor Redding quite a bit on the outside. Kism played 51% of snaps. He had a 16% target share, 3 targets in total. He did have a receiving touchdown. And then Taylor Redding, 53% of snaps, but did not have a single target this week. Tyler Palka, he factored in just a little bit kind of playing in the slot and probably more on the outside than he had, like when we compare it to last season. 23% of snaps. He had a 11% target share with 2 targets in total. And then Isaiah Zuber was kind of the surprise. 79% of snaps, 32% target share with 6 targets. He was their leading wide receiver last year. Looking like a pretty interesting pay down option this week since he's kind of getting the starter snaps. He led this team in snap share from the receiver position in week number 8. Then for the tight ends, we saw Josh Peterson, 47% of snaps, a 5% target share with 1 target. Clint Sig, 44% of snaps, 5% target share with 1 target as well. And then Brandon Barnes, 35% of snaps with a 5% target share. So all 3 tight ends saw 1 target. They already kind of mixed in, mainly using Josh Peterson on passing downs. Clint Sig and Brandon Barnes were in there more so for run blocking purposes. And then Rodell Rahman really just played special teams. For the Memphis Showboats, Cole Kelly, 100% of the snaps and pass attempts once again. 24 total pass attempts, 0 touchdowns, but did have 1 interception. 26% of the carries, he had 12 carries in total. I think they only had like maybe 2 design runs for him, a couple quarterback sneaks, stuff like that. But was trying to scramble for a little bit, not getting a lot of yards out of it though. Since he's not really super mobile, he's just a real big, long quarterback. Gareth White had 76% of the snaps, 50% of the carries with 23 in total, 1 rushing touchdown, and a 17% target share with 4 targets out of the backfield. Very good week for him overall, going against that New Jersey defense, which has really been beaten pretty bad on the ground game in the last couple of weeks. Behind them, we saw Juwan Washington, 24% of snaps, 22% of carries, 10 total carries. Didn't really do too much there. And a 0% target share. Ezra Gray was inactive for week number 8. Moving down to the wide receivers, they really kind of split these guys up a little bit more this week, it seemed like. So Derek Dillon, 67% of snaps, 21% target share with 5 targets. Ryan McDaniel, 64% of snaps, 12.5% target share. He had 3 targets in total. And then he had 1 carry on the ground for a 2% carry share. Vinny Papali played 56% of snaps, 17% target share with 4 targets. So still pretty much what we've been getting out of him most weeks. DJ Myers was inactive for week number 8 once again. And then Osiris Mitchell, 47% of snaps and 8% target share on 2 targets. And then John Mitchell, 16% of snaps, no targets though. This is kind of that wide receiver tight end hybrid, mainly using him in the slot though. And then for their other 2 tight ends, Daniel Helm, 74% of snaps, 12.5% target share with 3 targets. And JJ Wilson, 59% snap share and a 12.5% target share with 3 targets. Cheyenne O'Grady did not play a single offensive snap in this game or draw a single target. So mainly when we're looking at the Showboats, once again, obviously Cole Kelly could be in play. There is upside to be had there, but they were really running the ball this most recent game. Did make some sense against New Jersey since they were kind of up a good portion of the game. They used like multiple extra offensive lineman sets too. I believe like 12 in total in this game. As kind of that third tight end and really just trying to pound the ball that way. So that was something interesting too. Obviously, did take some snaps away from a couple other players. As we keep moving down, we got the Michigan Panthers. Josh Love, 100% of snaps, 100% of pass attempts, 32 in total, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. So pretty solid game out of him once again. And he's going to be a pretty decent value. 2 carries on the ground for a 13% carry share. Reggie Corbin saw 67% of the snaps, 73% of the carries, 11 in total. 9% target share with 3 total targets. He did get injured in this game. Initially, when I was watching the game, it looked like his wrist, but apparently it's his shoulder. He will not be active for week number 9. And Stevie Scott was apparently nursing some type of injury. He was riding the bike a lot during the game, so he did not actually get in the game. I'm not sure if it's like a hamstring or a groin injury or anything else like that. Really haven't seen too much on the injury report. I have to look a little bit more into that, but he could be an interesting play this week if he gets a clean bill of health, but he did not have a single snap in week number 8. Instead, they used wide receiver kind of running back, AJ Richardson, for 30% of the snaps. He had a 3% target share and 2 carries on the ground for a 13% carry share. So that was a little bit interesting to see there, but that's kind of what they did with their running backs in week number 8, at least. Joe Walker at wide receiver played 100% of snaps, had a 31% target share with 10 targets. So he was very involved once again. A lot of off-target passes, though, but he did make a couple good catches in that game as well. Trey Quinn, 93% of snaps, a 19% target share, 6 targets in total, and 1 receiving touchdown. And then Marcus Sims, 50% of snaps, 6% target share with 2 targets. The game before, him and Caden Davis were really swapping off as that wide receiver 3, just depending on the drive and everything else like that. But Sims definitely played a lot more of wide receiver 3 snaps in this game. Already talked about Richardson. And then Caden Davis was only 20% of snaps. He had 1 target for a 3% target share. Like I did mention, he was kind of above Marcus Sims this week. But we keep moving down for tight end. Cole Hincatini was at 67% of snaps, a 19% target share with 6 targets. Marcus Bowe, 65% of snaps, a 9% target share, 3 targets, and 1 receiving touchdown. Most notably, Cole Hincatini was in there more on the receiving downs, 2-minute drill towards the end of the game where they're trying to catch up and everything else like that. Marcus Bowe was typically in there more when the game was a little bit more balanced and everything else like that. Josh Babbitt's 9% of snaps and 0 targets. Kyle Markaway was inactive for week number 8. Moving down to the New Jersey Generals, we saw a split at the quarterback position. DeAndre Johnson did miss in week number 8. Sounds like he should be back for week 9, though. Whether or not he starts could be another question. But we saw Kyle Lauletta get the start. He played 14% of the snaps, had 14% of the pass snaps, only 4 in total, though. Did throw an interception and had 0 carries in this game. He was quickly replaced by Dakota Pruka, who played 86% of snaps, 86% of pass attempts, 25 in total. He had 2 passing touchdowns and 1 interception, 40% carry share with 6 total carries. He actually did run the ball pretty well in this game. I'm going to grab a drink of water here real quickly before we get moving on. So for the running back position, we saw Trey Williams inactive for week number 8. Not exactly sure what that was about at this point in time, but he hasn't really made a major impact lately. Darius Victor played 91% of snaps, 60% of carries with 9 in total, 8 targets out of the backfield for a 28% target share, and he did have 1 receiving touchdown. It was mainly him at the running back position. Kingston Davis was active, but he did not see a single offensive snap. Mainly when Darius Victor was not in the game, we saw a lot of Warren Newman. Whether it was an empty set or kind of line him up in the backfield. From the wide receiver position, it was Darrell Stewart who kind of played like that wide receiver role for them this week. It's really a role that's changed a lot for them this season, whether it's Randy Satterfield, Jamon Moore, Darrell Stewart, or Arthur Jackson. Obviously keeps changing every week, but Stewart played every single snap. He did not look particularly good in this game. 17% target share, 5 targets would not be somebody that I'd be super interested in, even though he is minimum price at this point in time. We'll see if anything changes as we get closer to game time. If Jamon Moore or Arthur Jackson is active this week, and maybe Stewart is or isn't. But Alonzo Moore, really the wide receiver to own here at 93% of snaps, a 28% target share with 8 targets and 1 touchdown. So he scored in back-to-back weeks. And then Cam Eccles-Luber played 70% of snaps, a 3% target share on only 1 target, though. So it wasn't really doing too much in week number 8. Marcus Green, only 7% of snaps. He had 1 target for a 3% target share. And then Warren Newman, 20% of snaps, had a 0% target share on 0 targets. He did fumble on the kickoff return, which one was lost for a fumble, and the other one was pretty close to being lost for a fumble too. So we'll see if Marcus Green gets some more kick return duties this week. Arthur Jackson, Jamon Moore, both were inactive for week number 8. In terms of the tight ends, Brandon Bowman, 66% of snaps, a 14% target share on 4 targets. Woody Branham behind him, 32% of snaps, a 3% target share with 1 target. And then Wes Saxon, 20% of snaps, 3% target share on 1 target as well. Moving down to I guess we should talk about New Jersey Generals real quick too. So if DeAndre Johnson's active and starting, he'll be an interesting play. If he's not, then Dakota Prukop's going to be really interesting. Alonzo Moore would be the wide receiver to go after, and that's pretty much it. If you want to take some stabs at Darius Victor, you could probably do that as well, which we'll talk a little bit more after I get over to the sheet, but kind of a quick little breakdown there. For the Breakers, McCoy Bethel Thompson, 100% of snaps, 100% of pass attempts, 34 in total, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Some of those interceptions were not the greatest, but it is something that did end up happening in that game and made that game probably closer than it should have been. He had 0 carries once again this week. Wes Hills, 75% of snaps, 82% of carries, 23 in total. He did have 1 rushing touchdown, 6 targets out of the backfield for an 18% target share. Anthony Jones behind him played 24% of snaps, 11% of carries, 3 in total, 1 target out of the backfield for a 3% target share. You'll see there's like 1 running back snap that didn't happen essentially there, where they did go an empty set. I believe it was down towards the goal line. And then Cyrus Habi-Likio was active, but did not play a single offensive snap. The 2 leading wide receivers, Johnny Dixon and Jonathan Adams, both played 87% of snaps, 35% target share with Johnny Dixon for 12 total targets and 2 touchdowns. And then Jonathan Adams had a 26% target share with 9 targets. Both these guys were super involved and looked really good in this game. Then we got Lee Morris operating as a wide receiver 3, 51% of snaps, but did not draw a single target. D. Anderson was inactive for week number 8 once again. Eli Stove got 9% of snaps, 0% target share, but he did have one carry on the ground for a 4% carry share. And then Javon Durant, he was active and actually played a couple snaps in this game. So 12% snap share, 2 targets for 6% target share. Did not catch either one, though, and then did have one carry on the ground for 3 yards for a 4% carry share. He will be inactive this week, though. We saw Jared Scott at tight end be inactive for week number 8. Forgot to clear his stuff out from week number 7 there, but he did not play. EJ Bibbs played in his place as the tight end 2. He played 52% of snaps, did not have a single target. And then Sage Surratt played 99% of snaps. He was in there for all but one snap, and he had a 12% target share on 4 targets. He looked pretty good once again, just didn't have quite as many targets as other weeks. Moving down to the Pittsburgh Maulers, Troy Williams played 100% of snaps, had 100% of pass attempts, 26 in total, did not have a single touchdown or interception, 7 carries on the ground for a 23% carry share. So he did have one rushing touchdown, though. I will add that too. I forget to write that down, but he's still a very active dual threat. He's not super expensive at this point in time, so definitely in play once again this week. At running back, it was just Garrett Groshek and Madre London this week. Groshek played 54% of snaps, 35% of carries with 11 in total. Didn't do too much in that regard. 2 targets out of the backfield for an 8% target share. And then Madre London, 38% of snaps, a 26% carry share, 8 in total, 1 target out of the backfield for a 4% target share. Dwayne Gary was inactive for week number 8. Mason Stokey, fullback tight end, 54% of snaps and no carries, but did have 8% target share with 2 targets once again. Bailey Gaither only played 77% of snaps. He is injured this week and not going to play. So that is something to note moving forward. So he'll be inactive. Trey Walker will be back to being active after being inactive for a while. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But Gaither had a 32% target share on 8 targets and 1 carry for a 3% carry share in this game. So that volume is going to have to go somewhere. We did see a lot of snaps for Isaiah. Probably not even a lot of snaps. I'll say for Isaiah Heney, only 57% of snaps, 16% target share on 4 targets. He had 3 carries on the ground for a 10% carry share. Lined up a couple of times in the backfield, ironically, too. Josh Simmons was the other main wide receiver, played 93% of snaps at 12% target share on 3 targets, 1 carry on the ground for a 3% carry share, did kick return duties once again. He'd probably be an interesting paydown option this week, especially with no Bailey Gaither as a guy that's out there for a lot of snaps. CJ Turner played 30% of snaps, a 4% target share with 1 target for 29 yards. And then Ishmael Hyman, new to the team, did not play a single offensive snap. Artavius Lynn did not play once again in week number 8, was still inactive. Matt Seibert, I had 72% of snaps, 16% target share with 4 total targets. So Pittsburgh's kind of an interesting team. They like rotating a lot of these guys once again. Mainly if you're looking at people, probably going to be Troy Williams. If you want to take a shot on Isaiah Heney, Josh Simmons, someone like that would make some sense. Trey Walker, he could be in play. I believe he's down to 3K. So if he ends up playing a decent amount of snaps, he could definitely pay off because he is pretty talented. I just don't know what the deal is, why they haven't been playing him in general. For the Philadelphia Stars, Case Cook has played 100% of snaps, 100% of pass attempts, 32 in total, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. I believe that interception did come at the very end of the game, kind of Hail Mary type of play anyways. 24% of carries with a 5 in total. Matt Colburn only played 5% of snaps, had 5% of the carries with 1 in total, did not have a single target. He did get injured in this game. He is going to injured reserve, and they did sign another running back who we'll talk about when we get over to the sheet. But that was a big bump up for Dexter Williams, 95% of snaps, 71% of carries with 15 in total, 13% target share, 4 targets, and 1 receiving touchdown. Darnell Holland was inactive for week number 8, but safe to assume that he'll be playing this week since Colburn is out. It'll be interesting to see between him and Dexter Williams how that split works, but the fact that Williams has been active ahead of Holland probably means that he's the lead guy. Moving down to the wide receivers, Devin Gray, Corey Coleman both played 100% of snaps. Once again, Gray had 6 targets for 19% target share. Corey Coleman had 8 targets for 26% target share and 1 touchdown. DeAndre Overton had 96% of snaps, 29% target share with 9 targets. So he was pretty active once again. Samuel Akim, only 9% of snaps, 0% target share, so didn't play quite as much this week. Kedrick Weefall did not play a single offensive snap. And then Terry Wright, 45% of snaps, a 10% target share with 3 targets in total. So a little bit of bump up for him, a little bit of downturn for Samuel Akim compared to the week before. Pro Wells, 27% of snaps, did not receive a single target. And then Ryan Izzo, 21% of snaps, had one target in the red zone, did catch it for a touchdown, 43% target share. And then Lawrence Dalabetta was inactive for week number 8. Once again, he's only played, I believe, the very first week of the season. So that's kind of the quick little recap, quick little rundown at this point in time. If you guys have any specific questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments in the live chat if you're watching live. I will be going over to my sheet for week number 9, kind of going through each player, each team, or at least the relevant ones. Talking about whether I would play them in GPPs, cash format, as a pay down option, as a contrarian option, anything else like that. If you have any specific USFL DFS questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments. If you're interested in more information, if you're interested in a lot more of this stuff, it's up on my Patreon at patreon.com/Coach Craig Sports. I'll be updating this sheet as we do get more news in terms of inactives and everything else like that, and injury news later tonight. But with that being said, with the Birmingham Stallions, Alex Magoo, he's very much in play. He's $12,500. I have him listed as GPP option at this point in time. You could throw him on cash because he's kind of the safest quarterback, but he still is a pretty hefty price tag at this point in time. CJ Marable at all the way up to $8,900 is interesting. He's a GPP option. Going to have a line share of this backfield to himself once again. If he gets that receiving upside, scores a couple touchdowns, could be very much in play once again. Not really interested in Ricky Person. Adrian Hardy's all the way up to $4,100. Michael Darius, Myra Mitchell, we're not really interested in. If you want to take a stab on Davion Davis or Deion Kane, you can definitely do that. Kane's down to $4,600. Had a pretty strong week in week number 8. Sternberger scored a touchdown in 2 straight weeks at $8,100. There is a little bit of upside to be had there as well. Their defense, they're going against Houston. More of a contrarian option for me at this point in time. Houston's actually been pretty good. If they can stop Mark Thompson in the running game, they have a shot. But at $4,400, I'm probably looking a little bit elsewhere. Kendi Bahar, mainly a GPP option. He's $8,200, so he's going to be, at least cheap at the very least. Could have some passing volume. Just depends on how this game goes. If it turns into a shootout, he might be all right. If it doesn't, probably going to be a better game for Mark Thompson just in general. But the fact that he uses his legs a little bit more in week 8 makes him a little bit more appealing than other times. Mark Thompson, $12,800, a lot of money. I'll be completely honest there. He's been arguably one of the best running backs in the USFL. It's him and Wes Hills at this point in time, but he's probably the safer of those two options. GPP option, I put down that he could be a potential cash game play since the touchdown volume that he's been scoring in recent weeks. Not really interested in the backup running backs. Not too super interested in wide receiver for Houston. If you want to play Justin Hall a little bit in GPPs, you can do that. Chike Kism, kind of a pay down option at $3,200. But mainly, if I'm going anywhere for Houston wide receivers, it's probably going to be Isaiah Zuber at $3,000. Just the volume that he's getting in terms of snaps and at that flat 3K price tag is kind of hard to beat. So it could be a potential cash game filler as well if you want to go there. Not really too interested in their tight end position since they're rotating all those guys. Gamblers defense going against Birmingham. I still think Birmingham's one of the better teams in the league. They got one of the better quarterbacks in the league. So probably not getting there myself personally, although Houston has played Birmingham really tough in recent games. Moving down, Cole Kelly, he's a GPP option. He's probably a little bit more pricey than I like at this point in time. So he's probably going to be a guy that I'm fading just a little bit more than compared to consensus. For running back Kareth White, I think he's probably going to be chalky this week. And I think a lot of his production came from the volume last week, and a lot of it was against New Jersey too. So there is something to be said about that. You can still throw him on GPPs, but I'm probably going to be underweight to the field just depending on where the field comes in. Derek Dillon, I think, is definitely worth some shots at $5,100 still. Vinny Papali, you really need a touchdown out of him, but he's a GPP option. Be underweight to the field on him, probably in line or even with the field for Derek Dillon. Kind of forgot to mention that for a lot of the other ones, so I'll go back through them as we get moving along, though. For the Showboats defense, consider them in play as a GPP option against New Orleans. New Orleans is a pretty good offense. They're a high-volume offense, but McLaury Bethel Thompson's still been throwing interceptions. Wes Phillips has fumbled in 2 straight weeks, so there is opportunities to be had there, and the Showboats defense has really done well in terms of turnovers and sacks in recent weeks. Moving down to the Panthers, we got Josh Love, $8,600. He's kind of a cash game play once again this week. He's just one of the cheaper quarterbacks, does have some pretty decent upside there throwing the ball as long as he doesn't get benched. And the fact that there's no Reggie Corbin could actually help him out a little bit because they have to throw the ball a little bit more in terms of volume. So, like I said, Reggie Corbin is inactive this week. Stevie Scott, oddly enough, did not play last week. So not really sure what was up with that. Toa Tua. Not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right. Former Nevada running back. He'll be active this week. If you want to roll him or Stevie Scott out in GPPs, take a shot there. They're both reasonably priced to where you can do that. AJ Richardson could be like an interesting like dart throw at $3,000 if he gets some more running back snaps, get some pass catching volume in that area. Could be a little bit of an interesting play. Joe Walker is still very much in play as a GPP option, maybe even a potential cash game option if you got the money to go there. Trey Quinn, GPP option once again at $7,100. Obviously, he's getting up there in price tag, so it's a little bit harder for him to pay off, but he's still been doing it at a pretty good rate. If you want to go with one of the tight ends, just hope they score a touchdown. You could go that direction, but probably not getting there myself. Panthers defense, GPP option against Pittsburgh. If they can stop, some of this passing game, there's no Bailey Gaither. So there is opportunities for them to pay off. For the New Jersey Generals, the biggest thing is here is just DeAndre Johnson monitor his injury status. If he starts, he's an interesting GPP option. He could be a cash game option. If he doesn't play, Prue Cup's going to be an interesting GPP option. You can maybe roll him out in cash if you really want to go that direction. But, probably be a little bit overweight to the field on this situation since there is some volatility to it. Darius Victor still very interesting as a GPP option. Wish they were running the ball a little bit more, but they did get behind last week, so that does make some sense. But he's kind of got the backfield to himself at this point in time, so I think there's some upside to be had there. Probably end up being overweight to the field on him. Alonzo Moore, really the only receiver here worth playing, unless you want to take a shot on one of the 3K guys and hope they pay off. But I'm just not hoping on that this week. Not hoping on tight ends. Their defense against Philadelphia. Philadelphia's kind of righted the ship as of late, so not really too interested in there. And the Generals' defense has really struggled versus the run in recent weeks. For the Breakers, McCoy Bethel Thompson still has good high-end upside. They have the high passing volume offense, so he can put up a big week on any given week. Westhouse, GPP option. He's still getting the volume. The fumbles have kind of hurt the last couple of weeks. Hasn't been quite as efficient, but still a very good running back at the same time. From the wide receiver position, it's Johnny Dixon and Cash. I think Jonathan Adams makes a lot of sense in GPPs. He looked really good last week. So there's a really good chance that he could like kind of flip flop what they did last week. Dixon gets, the yardage and Adams gets the touchdowns because that is very possible to happen. If you want to take a shot on one of the other receivers, you could do it, but it's more of a dart throw. Sage Surratt could definitely be in play as a GPP option. Still wish he was a little bit cheaper than $9,100 though. For their defense, going against Memphis, I put Cash question mark because if you can stop the run game for Memphis, there's opportunities to be had there. There's a couple injuries for Breakers defense too, I believe, from last week. So maybe a cash game play, maybe not. We'll just see how that all plays out. For the Pittsburgh Maulers, Troy Williams, GPP option there, probably be underweight to the field on this week, especially with no Bailey Gaither. Let's see. So Trey Walker will be active this week. He's 3K. Which makes him an interesting punt play or a dart throw because he's a talented wide receiver, but for whatever reason, him and this coaching staff just has not gotten along, and he's been inactive a lot of weeks. A little bit of injury here and there. I believe there was a hand injury at one point in time too, but it's just been a weird situation. Not sure what to exactly make out of that, but if you want to take a dart throw there, you could do it. If you want to take a dart throw on some of the other wide receivers, you could do it, whether it's a CJ Turner or whether it's Ishmael Hyman. But I think the two main guys here are going to be Isaiah Heaney and Josh Simmons. Josh Simmons, probably an interesting pay down option at $3,100. Probably could even use him as a cash game filler if you wanted to do so. Let's see. Not too interested in tight ends there. Obviously, if like Mason Stokey actually was a tight end at $2,500 instead of a running back at $4,000, he'd probably be a lot more interesting. I think the Maulers are an interesting cash game play versus Michigan, but at the same time, if you're playing Josh Love as your quarterback in cash, probably not going to want to play the defense against him. So there is that to be said too. If you're picking one, probably not picking the other one. For the Stars, Case Cook is really starting to right the ship as of late, so he's an interesting GPP option. Probably end up being overweight to the field on him. I think Dexter Williams probably ended up being a cash game play this week, $4,500 if he gets the lead back role. Darnell Holland, like I said, if we're not sure what this split's going to be exactly. So if Holland gets some volume, he could be an interesting pay down option. Both of them are pretty much in play. You could throw either one out in GPPs. When we're looking at the wide receiver position, Devin Gray, DeAndre Overtone, and Corey Coleman, all GPP options. Not sure where my GPP tag went for Devin Gray and Corey Coleman, but that's a story for a different day. Not really looking at too much else. The one guy I will mention, Cyril Grayson, who did sign with them, former LSU track star, spent a little bit of time with the Bucs, spent a little bit of time with some other teams in the NFL. If he's active, he could be a little bit interesting, but he's already up to $4,200 as opposed to being like the flat 3K. So there is something to be said about that. And then the Stars defense going against New Jersey. We're not sure what the quarterback situation is going to look like. If they can get some pressure on that offensive line, on that quarterback, could end up being a good day for them. So an interesting kind of GPP option, maybe a little bit overweight to the field on them just this week. If I'm playing Dexter Williams, maybe I'll stack the defense at the same time. But that's kind of in terms of everything. Like I said, there will be some things changing as we get injury news tonight, as we get some of the updates for active to inactive transfers and else, everything else like that. I will update them in the sheet that it will be up on my Patreon at at patreon.com/Coach Craig Sports. But that's kind of what I have. If you guys have any specific questions, be sure to let me know. I'll do a little bit of overweight and underweight to the field here. So probably, we're going to Birmingham, overweight to the field on Alex Magoo since he's been so consistent. Probably end up being probably even with the field on CJ Maribel. Underweight on Davian Davis, but I'll still have a couple shares of him. Deion Kane probably end up being even with the field. Sternberger probably being slightly underweight to the field. Bahar is an interesting one. I think there's opportunities to be had there, so maybe a little bit overweight to the field. Overweight to the field on Mark Thompson. Justin Hall probably be in line with the field. Kism, I'll have a share like here and there. Isaiah Zuber, I'll probably end up being overweight to the field on. Cole Kelly underweight to the field. Gareth White underweight to the field. Derek Dillon probably inline or overweight to the field. Vinny Papali will be underweight to the field. Showboat's defense probably be about in line with the field. They've really put up decent production as of late. And versus New Orleans, maybe draw some of the ownership down. Overweight to the field on Josh Love. I'm not sure what to do with this Michigan running back situation. I'll probably take a shot on both guys here and there, though. Maybe a shot on AJ Richardson as a dart throw here and there. Joe Walker probably be overweight to the field on Trey Quinn, either in line with the field, maybe slightly underweight. Michigan defense against Pittsburgh probably ended up being overweight to the field on. Dakota Prukop or DeAndre Johnson, depending on who ends up starting, I'll be overweight to the field on. Maybe I'll even make a line with DeAndre Johnson in one, Dakota Prukop in a different one. Pretty similar line otherwise, though. Darius Victor, overweight to the field. Let's see. Alonzo Moore probably in line with the field, maybe slightly underweight. McLeod Bethel Thompson, probably even with the field. Wes Hillis, I'll be underweight to the field on, which probably means he'll have a big blow up game this week, but that is what it is. Johnny Dixon be, in line with the field, maybe a little bit overweight. Jonathan Adams, I'll be overweight to the field on. Sage Surratt, probably a little less than the field on, overweight to the Breakers this week. Troy Williams probably underweight to the field, especially with nobody Gaither, like I mentioned before. Isaiah Heaney probably in line with the field, overweight to the field on Josh Simmons, excuse me. Mahler's defense, probably be in line with the field. Case Cook is overweight to the field. Dexter Williams probably overweight to the field, have maybe a share or two of Darnell Holland here and there. Devin Gray, I'll have a share or two of here and there. DeAndre Overton, a share or two over here and there. Corey Coleman probably in line with the field. So that's kind of where I'm at for this week. If you guys have any specific questions, like I already mentioned, feel free to drop them down in the comments. Message me on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and I'd be more than happy to help you guys as best as possible. Also, be sure to check out the Patreon at patreon.com/Coach Craig Sports for this sheet being updated as the day and the weekend move along, obviously. But with that being said, I'll post up the inactives prior to game time down in the comments on this video as well. Like I said, definitely do appreciate each and every one of you checking this out. If you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, feel free to subscribe. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS, primarily MLB DFS and USFL DFS at this point in time. But as the seasons move along, do NFL DFS, NBA DFS, and XFL DFS as well. So if you're in any of that, which I'm guessing you're at least into the USFL, be sure to check out the channel. Be sure to have those notifications turned on so you never miss a beat. But with that being said, definitely do appreciate everyone that did take the time out of their day to tune in, whether you're watching live or on replay. Definitely means a lot to me. Hopefully each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in USFL DFS this weekend.